failed miserably in providing a clear framework for ethical teaching. If you look at the way our education system is divided, it's between private school, grammar school, and state school. State school is at the bottom of the pile. Private school is the top. Why should the state school be left to rot? Why shouldn't the state schools have the same funding? Why shouldn't we invest in good schools, good teachers, and good environment for our kids to become better?
Well, let's talk about education. Let's take it away from the...
Hey guys, welcome back again to my YouTube channel. So today we're going to be diving into Muslim converts throws tantrum after Douglas Murray destroys her with harsh truth. Stick around to the end of the video. Let's go.
Government has failed miserably in providing a clear framework for ethical teaching. If you look at the way our education system is divided, it's between private school, grammar school, and state school. State school is at the bottom of the pile. Private school is the top. Why should the state school be left to rot? Why shouldn't the state schools have the same funding? Why shouldn't we invest in good schools, good teachers, and good environment for our kids to become better?
Well, let's talk about education. Let's take it away from the...
People often struggle to accept harsh truths, especially in debates. You're about to witness Douglas Murray challenge Miriam Francoise, a Muslim convert, with cold hard facts leaving her stunned. Today's debate revolves around whether the British should stop tolerating intolerance. The issue of tolerance and intolerance is complex and widely debated, not only in Britain, but globally. This debate comes in various layers: free speech versus hate speech, political intolerance, and particularly religious and cultural intolerance. Britain has been perceived to tolerate several instances mentioned so far. However, this alleged tolerance has reportedly contributed to the rise of extremism, both violent and non-violent, prevailing in society. Let us see Miriam Francois' perspective on a radical preacher who has purportedly imparted teachings from books to young students, praising individuals who prioritize death over life.
I think schools should be vetting the people who speak to children much more closely than clearly they have been. But I do take issue with the idea that this reflects some sort of radicalisation because some overzealous governors are wanting to impose social conservative mores within the school. I think the problem really is to do with the fact that this government and the government before it, in fact, has allowed schools to develop a much more independent ethos. And in fact, that allows academies and free schools to give governors a much greater say in how schools are run, in the ethos, in even how the curriculum is defined to some extent. So in doing so, it is effectively saying to communities, you can define your local ethos according to your own views. But then when it doesn't like the way in which communities form their own ethos, form their own
That's what I meant by the sort of Govian
principles. It is absolutely Govian principles. And to be fair, the other issue is that this government really is playing a double speak here. It can't, on one hand, talk about the issue of cultural isolation and support faith schools. Faith schools develop all sorts of forms of cultural isolation. That isn't to say they should be promoted in any secular schools, but to suggest that's a form of extremism suggests this government is actually supporting forms of extremism in faith schools.
Miriam Francois argues that while this motive certainly appears radicalised, she blames the evidently inclusive British government and accuses it of double standards. She asserts that government support for faith schools could potentially foster segregation and eventually lead to social integration. However, do you believe the British government implicitly endorses extremism?
Should it should reflect the nature of the school?
So first they came for the tombolas.
For what?
Look, the problem
gambling
going on
wrong
here,
in those communities.
The problem going on here is that we're in the middle of a debate. I mean, the nation is going through something very substantial change, and I think that what we've been discussing in recent days and what we've been discussing this morning kind of reflects this. I mean, until very recently, you know, if you said to people, and it comes back to the British values thing as well, if you said to people until very recently, what is Britain, what are British values, you'd have got a fairly clear reply along the lines of, you know, a Protestant Christian country, we have institutions of church and state and monarchy and so on, which represent the country. As one of the results of mass immigration of recent decades, there has been a substantial change in the country. All sorts of good things have come from that, and some negatives have. But one of the things that has come from it is this confusion about what it is we are. We want to be open and tolerant, we want people to be able to practice their faiths, we want people to be able to express themselves and live the lives they want to live. What we're finding it very hard to do at the moment, and I mean the French secular example has already come up, is to work out where our lines are drawn as a nation, because they're not clear at the moment.
It's impossible to draw those lines, isn't it?
It may prove impossible. It may be that we do something like the French state did and try to draw very clear lines. That's what you've heard in recent days. There's a bit of it already this morning, that, you know, there's a problem with some schools that are actually, you know, state secular schools that happen to have had...
How bad are these problems?
the problems exposed in Sir Michael Wilshaw's report are pretty serious, and there's more to come.
Really, what's so
teaching.
serious in the report?
I think, for instance, I mean, Wilshaw himself says that these children are at risk of cultural isolation. There have been findings of children, for instance, being taught in assembly to chant anti-Christian chants and so on. This is very unpleasant sectarian stuff.
Did you know that none of the kids were spoken to?
But if
you know?
He discusses how the British government has patiently tolerated changes, such as religious propaganda, throughout the country and mass immigration. This statement is fair and supports the view that the British government has been consistently transparent in its actions. Douglas precisely highlights the reality of Muslims overlooking the disturbing extremist teachings in schools, but Miriam denies this when confronted with undeniable evidence presented by Douglas. He does not hold back in addressing these issues.
Look, this is part of, by the way, just very quickly on this matter of this. I mean, I do think that one of the things.
But address that issue about.
Okay, can I just mention first? One of the interesting things that's come up in recent days and weeks, I think, over this whole Trojan horse business, is I think that some Muslims in this country, in particular, a lot of Muslim spokespeople, a lot of Muslim groups have been furious about these revelations and are now denying them. They're still denying them. And this is something like happened in the Catholic Church over the paedophilia scandal. People just don't want to admit it. They don't want dirty laundry to be aired in public. They genuinely think that, and that's why there's still this denial even now. There's an official report by Sir Michael Wilshaw. It's found some very disturbing things. Some people still think that it don't exist. Do you think it's all been made up?
What I actually know is that there are serious governance issues. There have been internal administrative issues. Whether there are issues of extremism, which is what you're peddling, and what in fact the publication you work for is peddling by publishing one of the worst covers in this country that I have ever seen, suggesting that young children are vehicles for extremism and terrorism. You should be ashamed to be associated.
Daniel,
can I just give? This is a very good example of the problem. Miriam, you are a very prominent spokesperson. You're a voice. You're a very prominent convert to Islam. You have a voice.
I'm not. I don't call myself a convert.
Okay,
so don't call me one.
whatever it is you want to call yourself. You have a voice. Here are some problems that are coming up, which have been exposed in schools that seem to be teaching very seriously unpleasant things, and they're being taught by some extremist Muslims. Why, in this debate, you first of all deny that that is going on, and secondly, think the problem is a spectator cover cartoon.
I've never denied that there are issues.
I do not understand.
On these three,
the problem is not the spectator cover.
I think the issue is you're
Miriam first. I want to speak to Daniel Hannan. Miriam, respond to that.
You're trying to suggest what you're trying to do is support the Gove's agenda here, which is there are absolutely issues within these schools, and I think everyone, including the Hands Off Birmingham School campaign and others, have acknowledged that there are certain people who should even stand down as a consequence of some of the revelations in this report and reports that will come. The issue, however, is trying to rebrand this as an issue of extremism in order to expand this idea of extremism being non-violent ideas.
Or indeed Nick Griffin had been asked to come along and speak in a...
Before we proceed further, let's briefly outline the Trojan horse issue. This refers to the controversy that sprung in 2014, involving allegations of an organised attempt to introduce an Islamist agenda into several schools in Birmingham, UK. The term Trojan horse comes from an anonymous letter that surfaced, alleging a systematic effort by Islamist extremists to infiltrate and exert influence over the governance and curriculum of several Birmingham schools. This letter claimed that a group of Islamist extremists were attempting to take control of school governing bodies and were eventually going to impose a more right-wing based Islamic ethos, beliefs and point of view in schools.
There's a feeling that everyone's being attacked, even if you don't necessarily agree with the person who's being attacked. Do you understand where I'm going with this? Isn't it time to stand up and actually, condemn more when we hear outrageous things from people?
I don't know where you're going with that at all, and I'm going to choose to pretend that I don't know where you're going with that.
Rabbi Laura kind of addressed it, didn't she?
Yes. I would like to come back to this idea that for me, faith leaders should teach what they think is right. And that's what they should teach. And schools should teach critical faculties, which allow us to distinguish, between solid arguments and unsubstantiated arguments. And that's it. Those are the divisions. Those are the lines.
And that's the extremism.
Useful. The former Bishop of Edinburgh, Richard Holloway, had a very good line on this. He said that the opposite of faith is not doubt, but certainty. And I think it's worth bearing in mind. Look, I just wanted to mention also, comes back slightly to something I said earlier, but the period we are in of churn and rethinking about what it exactly is, it's what the Prime Minister's been writing about this morning. Everyone's trying to nail these values down.
Nailing jelly to a wall.
And one of the things about this is, and I think it's just the reaction to Andrea's comments, a good example of that. Nobody, it seems, is very keen on admitting where, I mean, I speak as a secularist, but nobody's very keen on admitting the Christian origin of some of these things, and I think we have to be frank about that. We can't write our heritage out or pretend it was something else. And just very quickly, one of the things that is being done on this, which has come up several times this morning, is this attempt to sort of encompass everybody in the new values. I mean, sometimes, you know, it's all freedom, good, openness, great tolerance. Yes, it's all fine. There is a risk, however, in this, and it comes back to the thing about always highlighting gay marriage and other things. Again, something I'm supportive of. But there is a risk in this that we build up this new value system on extremely wide ground, because it's ground we want to be as wide as possible to encompass everyone. But it might also be ground that's very shallow. And I would suggest that some of the things we're talking about, if you identify your country solely on some of the lines we're discussing at the moment, it could yet prove to be, and this comes back to the point the lady in the back made, it could prove to be too shallow for some people, and I think that's something we have to think about.
Do you think Douglas Murray was right about this underlying issue in Britain that's not being voiced enough? Let us know in the...
Well, that was quite educative. Well, first of all, before I go to the whole point of the debates that they actually had, I'm going to point out a few things, right? I find it very funny how delusional some people can be. Sorry to say, but I find it very difficult to believe that some people can live in this delulu state. Why do I say so? All right. A very simple question was asked to the lady, you know, to give a very straightforward answer. But they will always try to find an excuse behind or give a reason that is not morally, will I use the word? Yeah, but that is not morally listenable. A very simple question was asked, but the answer that was given was not justifying the question. Then secondly, I will still say this and still say this to tomorrow. See, kids are not a fair playground. Yes. I will stand by this word to the end of the earth. There are certain kinds of information that kids are not meant to be hearing until they are old enough to choose between right and wrong. Do you know the truth is this, right? I don't really believe that people are really born into any religion until you are 18 and then choose, maybe when you are an adult, and then you choose to decide which religion you want to be. That is when I believe that people are true. You are making a conscious decision. But when you tell me that a child is born and then this is the religion he's born into, and that automatically makes that person that religion, honestly speaking, I don't really buy into that. But that is not the point of this conversation, so let me not digress. Now, secondly, like I said, children are not fair play. There are some certain information that should not be taught in schools, in the sense that you have an opinion of how you want to train your kids. You have an opinion of how you want to train your kids. That does not mean that your opinion must supersede my own opinion. You didn't give birth to that kid for me. You didn't go through the 9 months of pain, love, understanding, bonding that I went through with my kid, that you will now decide the kind of information that entered my kids' ear. I don't accept that. You want your kids to hear any kind of information, that is your business. That is your what? Business. When it comes to my kid, it is my say. And when my kid is old enough to make decisions, it becomes his say. So please, there are some certain things that should not be tolerated. See, see, Bailey, I want to even say this. I want to even say this. I think it is high time we ban religion in school. Yes, if the child goes home, if you are a Christian, take him to church on Sunday. If you're a Muslim, take them to mosque on Friday. Let this child go to school and learn to improve his mental state. Because I feel like that is the biggest discussion we have in child these days. If you want to teach your child about how to be a good Christian at home, fine and good. You want to teach your child about how to be a good Muslim at home, fine and good. Nobody should enforce any kind of law that says that you must teach a child in these certain ways. In school, school is supposed to be a neutral ground, a neutral ground. What are we turning schools into these days? What are we turning it into these days? School is a neutral ground. Yes, I know the things, I know the kind of things I enjoyed being taught about the good Christian values when I was growing up in school. I'm not saying they are all bad, but the way we are turning it into in this generation is too bad. It's bad. We should ban it. If we can no longer be teaching it with sense, we should ban it. We should ban it. Ban it in schools. Yes, ban it in schools. Any kind of religion should not be taught in school. If it is not historical fact, don't if it is not something that is related to talk about in history, don't talk about it in school. I know some of you will come for me in my comment section because of what I'm saying, but this is my pure and honest opinion about religion being taught in schools. The rate in which we tolerate some kind of nonsense is alarming. It's alarming. So please let us ban it for now until we have people that have sense. Everybody in this world does not have. I don't want to. Oh my God. You know, there are some certain things I'm hearing in this debate. I don't want to talk about some certain things because I know the kind of backlash I will get from it. I know the kind of backlash I will get from it. But like I said, I don't care. There are some certain things that is supposed to be a no. Hate me for it, no problem. I can take your hate. But we should say no to some certain things. And first of all, before I continue, please, I want to give a very big shout out to one of my YouTube family, Bayern Gary, for the buy me coffee you bought for me recently. I am so sorry. The reason why I have not actually made a video in appreciation to that has been because I have not made new videos for a lot while. So all the videos that have been coming on my channel has just been the videos that I've done for some time, and I'm just trying to post all of them and clear my draft. Thank you so much for that buy me coffee. I really appreciate it. It went a long way into as you can see, we made some improvements in our studio, and I really appreciate that. Honestly, I'm really glad, and I'm really glad that we're getting the studio to the stage we want it to be. Every single contribution that has been done by every single one of my buy me coffee supporters and my super thanks supporters, I want to say a very big shout out to you guys. You guys have been a very huge help to this YouTube family. Honestly, I am moved to tears sometimes with whenever I see stuff like that. I'm really moved to tears. You guys are the main reasons why our studios are being upgraded every single time, and I'm hoping that one day we'll get a huge sound system and a better recording device. We are growing gradually, and I hope we'll get there. I'm so sorry to cut this off at this moment. So thank you guys for sticking around to this part of this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on this YouTube channel. Also, feel free to use the Buy Me Coffee link to make parity requests on the next video like on our YouTube channel. It can be a way of supporting the channel, and I want to give a big shout out to every single one of my Buy Me Coffee supporters on this my YouTube family. We are growing, and we're growing stronger. I remember the day we started with just 2 subscribers, and now we are about 18,000 strong. I really love every single one of you, and keep up the good work and stay safe. Be safe. I know that most of you will hate me for what I said, but please, I'm just speaking my honest truth and my mind. A day that will come that we will be hate for speaking our mind is a day I don't want to be in this world to see. Yes, please, let there be room for opinions, let there be room for suggestion, and let there be room for growth. Bless every single one of you, and see you on my next update. For now, remain blessed and bye.